I want to invite Susan to come up. Did I see? Where did I see? Yes. Last week we began talking a little bit about sort of the things that Mosaic does and the things that we need support for. And Kay spoke last week about her passion for Mosaic and why she supports Mosaic and gives to Mosaic. Susan's going to talk to us today. And as she comes up, that'll pull right up if you need to pull it up. Yep.
Great.
I'm going to pass these out, and this week, these talk about missions and outreach, and I just want to say that the website at the bottom is wrong, but our website is mosaicokc.org, and if you go to there and click on missions and outreach, you can see all the many ways that we're involved. I could not fit them on this one page, so just take one and pass them back. Thank you, Susan.
Okay. I think I did this last year, Scott. I remember becoming emotional.
Hold your mic up.
Okay. I remember becoming emotional while describing this congregation. The blame for that lies squarely on the shoulders of Sharon Bycroft. During my first few visits to Mosaic, I observed her working the room, checking in with the elderly, those who had had health problems or other concerns. She is my gold standard of congregational care. But at this moment, it's time to talk about an awkward topic, giving. When I was a child, the annual church finance campaign meant a representative of First United Methodist Church in Tulsa would come to our house and sit in our living room and ask my parents to make their commitment for the coming year. No pressure there. Which brings us to Reuben sandwiches. Last week, I was craving a Reuben sandwich. You know, thinly sliced layers of corned beef, Swiss cheese, Russian dressing, and crisp sauerkraut on soft marble rye, all grilled to perfection. So I Googled best Reuben sandwiches in Oklahoma City, and found that the two restaurants that were consistently top recommendations were closed in the evening. Those were Someplace Else Deli and Ingrid's. The third strong contender was Cousins Bar and Grill on North May Avenue at 65th Street. How many times have I driven by that business with its opaque windows and wondered what went on inside? So here was a chance to satisfy my curiosity. David and I parked in the back in a well-maintained lot and entered through the back door to be immediately assaulted with a burst of cigarette smoke that I haven't experienced in years. The room was clean and spacious, with newer tile floors and 6 or 7 billiards tables taking most of the open area. I had 2 observations. Number 1, this is definitely a billiards bar. Many of the patrons had their own cues and fancy cases. And 2, the patrons knew each other and visited table to table, greeting and bidding each other farewell as they arrived and went. I observed a server escort an elderly man who had picked up a to-go food order to his car, making sure he was safe. This was a community where people come together for a few hours and enjoy shared time, somewhat like a church. Community is a powerful force that keeps many of us in church. It is not to be discounted. In the past, we attended a church for years because it had a large youth group for our kids and because of friendships that we formed in a Sunday school class, even though I often cringed at the theology that some of those friends promoted. I had an email last week from one of those friends who specifically said that Mosaic was not an obedient church and offered me 2 suggestions of other churches that I could attend. This pushed a few of my buttons. I am not by nature obedient. Church and religion is a process for me. Community is what draws me in, the Bycroft factor. Theology is what keeps me here. As a child, I remember sitting in church as the congregation recited the Apostles' Creed and thinking, do I really believe all this? I remember Camp Egan in 6th grade. They had an altar call on the last night of the session, inviting the campers to come to the rail and give their lives to Christ. I knelt at that altar, feeling that I had been manipulated into coming down and thinking that God might punish me for not really being 100% on this. My mind was also distracted by a boy that I had met at camp, David Witherspoon, who was my crush of the week and was kneeling right next to me. Perhaps I haven't changed a lot, but today I have claimed the agency not to spend my time in a church that denies doubt and that is full of easy, rigid answers. I responded to my email friend that, quote, "For me, Mosaic embodies what church could aspire to be. We are a place of acceptance where we openly explore and grow in a theology that is reasoned, not prescribed. Honesty is valued here. We are relevant to the society we live in, and we are committed to being in the trenches, doing the work of caring for the disadvantaged and the marginalized, accepting all to be reconciled in the body of Christ," end quote. And I could have added, whether they have fancy cues and leather cases or are playing with the bent house cues. This pretty much sums up why I support Mosaic. Our fall financial campaign allows us to continue this work and this fellowship. Fall is not just pumpkin spice lattes and falling leaves, you know. Yes, it takes money to keep this church afloat. I'd like to reiterate what Kay said last week. It really stuck with me, that collectively we can do great things. We commit without coercion because giving is an expression of ministry, an act of worship and love. Please generously consider your level of support for Mosaic and our ministries for the coming year.
Thank you, Susan.